It's time to play ball. Welcome to the podcast with no limits. Whether it be sports, current events, or random thoughts, this is the place to step in and stay a while. Your host is a proud alumnus of Rio Hondo Prep, a former minor league baseball umpire, and a man with strong opinions. Welcome to the Get Home Safe podcast and your host, Matt Hersema.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Get Home Safe. It's a Friday edition of the podcast, so that means we have a nice long-form interview for you today. And today I'm joined by a guy I used to officiate football with for a few years anyway. He has been a guy who's traveled all over the world. He's got some great experiences. He'll tell you about his job, his career. He was able to escape California recently, so God bless him for that. We're going to be joined by John Heid today. He worked in the defense industry. I'll let him tell you all about that. He grew up in Ohio and has recently retired. So he's got nothing but time for it. Well, I shouldn't say that. He was gracious enough to join me today. So let's bring him right in to the program here. He's coming in. He's in the waiting room. It's our first time Zooming. And there he is, Mr. John Heid. Welcome to the Get Home Safe podcast.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
John, it's been a while, man. You officiated football for a long time, and I was a rookie kind of in your last few years. I was just starting out really. And so some interaction there, but I think, when was the last time we saw each other? I knew it was off the field somewhere. We ran into each other.
If I remember right, it was at Graziano's in Upland.
That's right. That is right. Yeah, you're right, man. That was totally random. I think me and Max Hernandez were there.
Yeah, I think I came in there just to. No. I know what it was. I asked Max if you want to go get a drink. He said I'm at Graziano's, and I showed up, and you were there, and I forget who else was there, but I mean, it was like, whoa, this is awesome.
Yeah. We, John, we played some golf together. I was one of my favorite things to do, even though I was a terrible golfer, was to play in the Foothill Citrus Football Officials Golf Tournament. And I use the term tournament loosely because we were just there to have a good time. Right?
Anything Bernansky was involved in, it was going to be loosely.
Yeah. I talked to Joe on the podcast a few months ago, and, we talked about the golf tournament, how much fun that was. But yeah, the Brotherhood of Foothill Citrus was great. John, we're going to talk about a lot of things, your career, maybe some of your officiating experience, but, first got to congratulate you on retirement, man. Recently, last year, August of 2020, you were telling me, so got a glass here for you. Congratulations. And, you happen to have one too? Yes.
Back at you.
Yeah. Cheers, sir.
Basil Hayden.
Very nice. It's good to see you, man. Well, John, we'll talk about your career, but tell me about where you grew up and, what region of the country or area of the country you grew up, little John Heid.
I grew up in a little small farm town in Ohio called Strasburg. And the rest of the world is right down the road from Strasburg. It's literally about 23 miles from Pro Football Hall of Fame. And if you'll remember, when we had our banquets, guys would get stuff and it came from the Hall of Fame. Well, I'd go back. Usually I was back about every year visiting the folks. And I would always make a special effort to go up there and get souvenirs to be able to come back for our banquets, just so I could give them away. And I always thought that was kind of cool and neat. I got to see that place when it was first started. It looked like a little small Waffle House, and then and now it's just totally changed completely. They've done real well with it, real well. So I grew up there. 1,100 people in town. Not a whole lot to do. You go down, play in the creek. You on the swings behind the schoolhouse. You just have a good time and hit golf balls every now and then. The old kind that got smiley faces on about every third time you hit them. And you're hitting them with wooden shafted clubs, and it was a good little place to grow up. It was a good place to grow up. It was a good place to be away from too.
Interesting. Well, I love the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Been there a couple times. One of my favorite places. I know most people are proud of where they come from, but I think Ohio people really are, probably because it has a lot to do with their sports team. So, were you a big Ohio sports kid growing up?
Buckeyes.
Buck-
Always Buckeyes. Of course, the football, the Ohio State football is it's awesome. And as they say, next man up all the time, next man up. And they usually got 2 or 3 guys fighting to be that next man up. So if you get on first team with Ohio State, you've got a good chance of going someplace. So further your career, probably, on the next level, at least have a shot at it.
Well, Ohio
Yeah.
State's got a great football tradition. One of the blue bloods of the Big Ten, and I think it was last year, that shortened season, of course, where they got all the way to the championship game and lost to those dreaded Alabama Crimson Tide. But what are your thoughts on? There was an Urban Meyer era of Ohio State football, and now they've moved on, but they haven't really missed a beat. To your point of kind of next man up, what's your current thoughts on the current state of
I think
Ohio State?
Ryan Day is probably going to be known as one of the best Ohio State football coaches they've ever had. I think he knows how to recruit. He knows the game really well. He's really connected with kids, and he has a lot going for himself, and the program has a lot going with him.
Oh yeah.
That's where I'm seeing it. And of course, the definition of any good program is how many of your assistant coaches go on to become head coaches to someplace else.
Oh yeah.
There's all kinds of Ohio State guys in the ranks all over the place.
Oh, all over. And that's what's been amazing about Alabama is all the coaches that have moved on to coach as head coaches elsewhere. The one thing I think Ohio State has going against them, as far as the other big programs in America, Texas, and although they haven't been relevant in years, but Alabama, all the schools in the SEC, is the weather. It's cold in Ohio, John. It's real cold.
That's one reason I'm not living there anymore. Snow belongs on top of the mountains like God intended, and not in my driveway.
That is beautifully said. That is spoken like a true Californian. Oh man. So what about pro sports? Were you interested in pro sports at all?
I grew up being a Browns fan. It was like 70 miles to Cleveland from home. And of course, that's who you rooted for, because I think that's who Dad rooted for, maybe. But at the same time, it was like, oh, I can't root for those Steelers. They're from Pittsburgh and they're no good. Little did I know.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, the Browns were awesome.
Yeah, they broke many hearts many times as far as playoff runs and everything. But yeah, the Cleveland sports fans, to me, it's kind of, hey, you need to be miserable like the rest of us, is kind of my thought. But anyway, so when did
you?
So what about height? I always ask people because I'm curious of people growing up, because these days not everyone plays sports, which is kind of weird to me. But did you play sports like a normal kid kind of in high school?
Well, yeah, what was really fortunate where I grew up was there was like 1,100 people in town. Okay. And the little surrounding area, we had a small school. And I think we were like maybe 820 kids, K through 12. So everybody, if you wanted to play sports, you had an opportunity to play. So I played football, basketball, and ran track. And it was one of the best parts of your life as far as that goes. I mean, it was the camaraderie that you always had with your buddies and everything like that. And just being able to get out there and play, kick somebody else's butt every now and then, and get yours kicked every now and then as well. But I mean, that was life as far as that goes. But yeah, I had a good time with it. In fact, my high school basketball coach was Bobby Huggins' dad up until I was a sophomore. And then he moved to a different school district so he could coach Bobby.
Wow. Bob Huggins is currently the head coach at West Virginia University.
Yeah.
And coached at Cincinnati for a few years. So, wow. So his dad coached you.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
And if you didn't know what the fundamentals were, then you did a lot of running until you learned. And I was a quick learner. Let me tell you, I was a quick learner.
Let's see. I think they call them rundamentals, right?
Yeah, rundamentals. Yeah, yeah. But he was one of those that that if you screwed up, then everybody else did too. So you all had to run. And so we put pressure on each other to not screw up.
What a concept. You're telling me you didn't like just hug your buddies if they made a mistake and said, hey, it's going to be okay, man.
There you go. It was thanks, asshole. Okay. We're all running.
Accountability. I can't believe it existed one time. Very cool. Very cool stuff. So I played high school sport, and you're right, John. It's so hard to, like, even all these years later, like, think back and be like, man, I miss it. I miss playing, because you had no worries except let's go work hard and prepare and try to beat that team across the way.
Well, as you get older, you'll find out that you still think you can be as fast as you were in high school. And the only thing I remember doing really, really well was scoring 3 touchdowns against Polk High School to win the city championship.
Nice.
To quote Al Bundy.
No, oh yeah. Sorry, took me a second. Yeah, yeah. I learned that there's more to life than high school sports, but
it prepares you for it.
Oh man, absolutely. I don't know how kids these days don't play sports. They don't learn to lose. They get trophies for participating. And for everyone makes the team. No one's cut. I mean, I just don't understand all that stuff. But hey, that's the world we live in, I guess. So after high school, John, what did you get involved in? I know you retired from your career, which we'll talk about, but did you go right into that? Did you go to college? Did you work part-time? Where?
No, I went to college in a town called Searcy, Arkansas. It was a little Christian school. And I think it was there was less than 2,000 students there, but it was a lot bigger than my high school was. So as far as that goes, I went to a little bit bigger pond, but it was still kind of a sheltered pond, so to speak. I got a degree in biology. I took the one regret I have was not taking 7 years to finish college instead of only doing it in 5 years. It's some of the best times in your life, actually. And you should take full advantage of that. But that's where I met the exes from there, and she happened to be from Glendora, and that's where that's where I ended up at, in Glendora. Then I got divorced, and then that's after I got divorced is when I started officiating.
So you go from Ohio all the way, small town, very small. You go to Arkansas, which is a small college as well, but bigger than where you at. And just randomly, you meet someone there who's from Glendora, California, which is where I was born and raised. And you say, well, I guess I'm going to California.
And that's kind of almost how it worked out. Yeah, almost kind of how it worked out.
So when you came out to California, is that when you started is your career with the Defense Logistics Agency?
I started about, let me see, 3 years after I got to California. I think that's about right. Something like that.
Okay.
And then, boom, I was with them for 37 years.
What was your initial thought of California, being a kid from the Midwest who went to college in the South, and now you're on the left coast? What was your initial thought? Did you like it back then?
Dude, California was that was the golden globe, so to speak, of where I was growing up, where everybody wanted to go and just be part of. In fact, one of my buddies, when I was a freshman in high school, he ran away, and me and another friend looked at each other and goes, he's going to California. They caught him in St. Louis. They found him in St. Louis. He was hitchhiking to California. And I don't know if he ever made it out here or not, or not out here, but where I'm at now, but out to California or not. He's no longer with us, but at that time it was like, yeah, we knew exactly where he was going, because he talked about going to Hollywood all the time. I mean, it was incessant. But my first reaction when I got out there was, wow, this is really kind of neat, but it's kind of like really big, and there's a lot of people. And these freeways, what? You want me to drive on these freeways? What?
Well, it's funny because Glendora, I guess to Southern California standards, it's a kind of a small town, but it's nowhere near where you were growing up. So, and then just Southern California in general, I know at one time it was a wonderful place to live, and it wasn't as crowded or as expensive maybe back in the day, but now there's not many people coming into California. They're leaving. They're going the other way, which I know you did last year, right?
Yeah. I now live in North Carolina, right in the Pinehurst area, which is, big golf. I mean, you can't turn around and drive 4 or 5 minutes almost any direction. There's a golf course.
I love it.
It's pretty crazy. And I love it. It is absolutely beautiful. The reason they call their colors are blue and white is you see the skies out here and the clouds. Oh, let me tell you, absolutely gorgeous.
I heard a friend of mine had lived in North Carolina for a few years. Every time there was a clear day in California, he said, God is a Tar Heels fan. Otherwise, he wouldn't have painted the sky Carolina blue.
Yeah.
And I always found that funny. But man, so freedom. You live in a free state. God bless you, John. We just got our handcuffs off recently. Oh, I mean the mask and all. But man, you go from California to North Carolina. I mean, what a change.
It's a huge change. Now, even though the governor here is left of center, I'm going to be polite, but the legislatures really pound on him hard, so he has to mind his P's and Q's here a little bit. But the sheriff in the county where I live said, all that mask stuff, if you expect me to enforce it, you can go pound sand. That's all there is to it. I'm not going to do it.
I think live and let be is a good way to run things. No matter what the policy, the subject matter is, it's probably a good policy to have. So, well, that's awesome, John. I'm happy for you living in North Carolina now, retiring and moving out of here because, man, it's been a rough few years, but it's been a rough year in California for sure. Well, let's talk about your career. You worked in the Defense Logistics Agency. How did you get involved in that? You had this degree in biology. Did that help? What got you involved in this?
It was kind of weird. It was a friend of mine worked for them. And I just happened to ask one day, are they looking for applicants? Are they hiring? And he said, yes, they are. I asked, could you get me an application? Sure, not a problem. I'll even help you fill it out because it's a government thing. So, there's a lot of BS that has to be done, especially for an initial hire of some sort. And we waded through it and it was like 7, 8, 9 pages of stuff. And I sent it in and I got a phone call and I got 2 interviews, and the first interview went really well. And the second interview was an interview that the lady told me, I can't hire you right now. I can hire you after January 1st, but if you can get hired before then, do that because they're changing the retirement system. And if you can get in on the old retirement system, then that's the one you want to be on. And she told me these words. She said, anytime the government tries to change something to quote unquote help its employees or help people, you're going to get screwed. That was good advice. And I took the first job, and that was for 3 months. I was doing something. It was interesting, but it wasn't that great. And then after the first of the year, she called me. She said, "Do you still want that job?" I said, "I sure do." And she said, "Okay, I'll set you up and then get you settled for whatever class it was that I had to have." I said, "I'm already set up for that class. I'm supposed to go in 2 weeks." She said, "That's awesome." She said, "But I want you before you go to that class." And I said, "Okay, works for me." She says, "I'll see you down here in San Pedro in 2 weeks." And boom, it went from there. And after that, I was in fuels, which was where the chemistry comes in from with the biology degree, the lab work, everything like that. I'm very familiar around laboratory stuff. And that's what she was looking for. And that's what got me my job.
Well, what I gathered from that story is, persistence, number one. And some people, I think these days, they have an idea of a direction they want to go career-wise, but they don't want to get their feet dirty, or they don't want to quite do something that is right before that job or whatever. And so you took something on that wasn't quite what you wanted, but you knew it would probably get you to where you wanted to be. And it didn't take very long for that to happen. Yeah.
I was fortunate, right time, right place on some of it. But I mean, it was like, I interviewed really, really well for both of the jobs. And they both wanted me really, quite strongly. And she said, "I'll hire you right now, right off the street." She said, "But I can't," And but it was good. I got my foot in the door and I made a really, really good first impression. And then after that, it was just keep your mouth shut and your ears open and start trying to learn as much as you can. And that's what I try to pass on to anybody if you can do that, but you get ahead a lot further.
That's why I like doing this podcast and talking to people from different careers, and a lot of officials, come into play too, but you learn so much about that type, like what she just said, what you just told us, like you can take that with you anywhere in any walk of life, and it'll probably improve your life. So really, really good stuff. So tell the audience, what exactly is the Defense Logistics Agency?
The Defense Logistics Agency, they are the guys that buy $500 toilet seats. They are the guys that buy the rocket fuel for the rockets are putting satellites up for the space shuttle program. That's rocket fuel. They buy liquid oxygen like crazy for the military guys that, they like to breathe in those airplanes when they're 50,000 feet up. It's kind of important. They buy all the fuel for the different rockets that they have. That's all the nasty stuff, not just hydrogen and oxygen, but that hydrazine, any kind of torpedo fuels that you need. But they're essentially the buying arm for everything that the military uses. They probably, when I say everything, 98%. They buy 98% of what all the military use, and then it gets distributed out. But it's all the requests come from the military for what they're doing, and that agency fulfills it. And they have clothing, they have fuels, which is what I was with. They have shipbuilding, they have aircraft building, everything that gets manufactured, all gets manufactured then to government specifications. And there's always somebody that looks for reviewing those specifications, reviewing the quality on everything that's being bought. And that's how they keep track of all that stuff. So it's, that was part of what I did.
Wow.
And I did it with fuels, but that's what the agency does. They handle a lot of money for the government, a lot of money. Don't ask me how much here, but when you see the defense budget being $758 billion or something like that, yeah, they're probably handling at least 500 billion of that stuff.
Wow.
It's quite a bit.
No, I know that, money makes the world go round, and money makes, aircraft carriers go around too, specifically. And so that's so fascinating to me, because I've often wondered, like, where does this money come from, or who creates this ship, or who fuels, directly these planes or whatever. So that seems to be what you were, a fuel specialist, you were telling me?
Yes. Quality assurance fuel specialist. And what that does is, what we did was, we would have various contracts with various refineries all across the nation, all across the world, literally. We buy fuel all over the place, and we move it around to where it's needed, how it has to be, into storage systems that sometimes the government owns them, sometimes they lease the storage. They lease the pipeline routes that are being on. They don't lease the pipelines per se, but fuel runs in the pipelines, and it of course gets paid to be transported, to get from point A to point B. And it goes on ships, it goes on trucks. It has to go from point A to point B and C, and that's what we did.
So here's a dumb question for us in California and other parts of the country too. Gas prices go up, and California, we pay the highest, I think. But so when you see gas prices go up, does that mean fuel prices in like that industry, they go up as well, or is it kind of stable?
Well, there's a thing called Platts, Platts, and the price of fuel that the government buys is dictated by the Platts price, which is what the oil companies are paying for it, and it shifts on a monthly basis. It's not like, okay, if I buy it, like years ago, Southwest Airlines bought a boatload of fuel at a really, really cheap price, and just extended it out so many years, which is why they were so successful to being able to keep their flight prices down and everything like that. Well, everybody else was going up. I don't know if you knew that or not. But what happens is that Platt's price changes every month. And if it goes up, the government pays more. If it goes down, the government pays a little bit less, but it's all tied to that. And it's all tied to, that's an industry-wide standard that they have.
Interesting.
So you don't get screwed over every month and everything like that. But as far as civilians going, what's going on into the gas stations, everything like that, yeah, that's kind of like no holds barred.
Well, definitely. And I mean, because it's the military, because it's the government, does the Defense Logistics Agency does it have, I don't know how to phrase this exactly. So like, say there's more military conflict, there's a war, or it's peacetime. Does it kind of fluctuate based off, I mean, because the fuel cost, not fuel cost, but the whole business of it, does that change significantly?
Yeah, yes, it does. In as far as the number one expense in wartime, it's bombs and bullets. And number two expense is fuel. In peacetime, the number one expense is fuel. All right. So, but it does ebb and flow. The agency's always trying to be diligent with their dollars as far as how to spend them and where to spend them and what can we do to keep the expenses down, and do we need to have this much fuel on stock, everything like that. And as technologies change, fuel demands differ quite a bit. There was one time somewhere back in the early 90s, it was we were downgrading fuel, not downgrading, we were dropping our fuel inventories worldwide. And everybody's like, what's going on? And dropping those inventories, they're dropping the inventories down overseas as well as here in the States. And just when they celebrated, we started celebrating, yay, we did it. We got it done quicker than anybody thought we'd get it done. And the very next day, Saddam Hussein went into Kuwait. Oh, and so it was kind of like, yeah, you did that. So, all right, well, we're going to build this back up. Everything changed overnight, just like that. So you put all that work into doing something, you don't know what's going to quite hold, but so you try to read the tea leaves, but a lot of times they get blown by the wind.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of peacetime, but there's been a lot of wartime too. I mean, September 11th was in 2001. And then, the U.S. military has been in the Middle East for quite some time. And, there's the military is all over the world though. It's not just in, Afghanistan. I mean, there's bases everywhere that aren't like, they're fighting or anything. They're just bases around the world. So those, like, to your point about fuel costs and everything, those got to be fueled up as well, not just in combat.
Have to be sustained as well. Yeah, they do. And every place that we have someplace like that. There's some places that are go to Bulgaria and be there on the Black Sea. I mean, we got a place right over there, and it's horrible that you have to be there, but I mean, somebody has to do it, right? One of the bases that we have in Greece is on the island of Crete. It's a naval base, Suda Bay. It's horrible, but somebody has to be there, right? It's just a brutal place to be, and I'm being very facetious when I say brutal. It's one of the nicest places I've ever been. I love that island. Let me tell you, it's really nice.
Well, let's talk about that. I know you've lived in a few places, because of your job, but just as far as places that you traveled in business while doing this job, where are some places that you spent some time in, either briefly or long term?
I spent. I was in Harstad, Norway, which was 200 miles north of the Arctic Circle, and from there I went down to Helsinki. It was believe it or not, it was 82 degrees the whole time I was there.
Wow,
just insane. I never thought it would be like that. Mm-hmm. And then I went down to Helsinki for 3 days, and it was like 92 degrees. It was insane. But 6 months in Turkey. Playing games down there, having a good time down there. But That was like in 3 shifts though. That was 2 months at a time. I was down there 3 times. It was 2 months at a time. And
why did you have to go for like chunks of time like that?
What we were doing at that time was we were buying fuel from the Turks. And if you've ever been exposed to anything that's fake, the Turks are really good at faking things. And we had to be on top of them to make sure the fuel met the specifications like crazy. And then we were shipping it from their facilities into Iraq by truck. And the trucks that they have over there, those guys, believe me, they're not bulletproof, nor are they theft proof. And the only way to stop any kind of theft of that fuel would be to send one guy with every truck. And you're not going to be able to do that. Those guys are very innovative, but we had to inspect them all, looking for and trying to find the ways they would steal fuel, just so those guys get kicked out and would be using those trailers anymore. And there were some very unique ways that they would do, just try to steal fuel, to be able to get around the Americans' way of, making sure no theft is whatever. Now, having said that, we work in a society where that if you violate a contract, that's bad. You're not supposed to be doing it. The contract says you're guilty, you do that. In the rest of the world, it's like, yeah, I know I shouldn't be doing it, but it's part of our lifestyle. We're allowed to do this. And we're also allowed to bribe officials. So you're working in a world where somebody wants to be your best buddy because they think they're going to get something from you. And you're trying not to let them screw you. And he still wants to be your best friend. So it's really funny. It's comical at times. And you look at each other and it's a game that's being played, that you just have anything from you and you're not supposed to be taking anything from me. And that's the way it's going to work. And when I catch you taking it from me, then I got to kick you out. You can be nice to me as much as you want. I can't take anything from you, and I won't take anything from you. But you can't take anything from me. As nice as you want to be and as honest as you say you are, I know you're not doing it.
Wow, that's a fascinating. Yeah, the whole having to trust people you don't know, you think you know them, but you don't. I mean, and then the culture of the region that you're out. That's very, very interesting. Because my thought is like fuel is basically like it's like liquid gold, really, in a lot.
It is.
Everybody needs it. Especially the military. You can't move an army or a navy or whatever without it.
Why don't you look up Russian mafia and fuel in your spare time and see what you can find out about that? It's just. It's a product that is very easy to get rid of, but you could make a lot of money with it. And that's why people are out there looking for it like crazy. And even here in the States, let me tell you, the Russian mafia goes really big on they look at ways that they can get fuel and get rid of it and just make a lot of money. They don't care who gets hurt.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on, everyone's looking at an alternative to, I don't know, fossil fuels or whatever you want to term it. I find it hard to believe that, there is other alternatives. I know there's different versions or types of fuel and things, but I'm talking about specifically, the fueling that we kind of all know. There's diesel fuel too. Some of my trucks I drive are diesel, some are not. I mean, it just varies. So what are your thoughts on, I don't know, there's kind of like this push these days we got to find alternative fuels. And I'm like, I don't know that that's possible or necessary really.
You can always find an alternate fuel, but the question is how much is it going to be subsidized? And all these green fuels, they're all subsidized right now. You're familiar with the big solar farm outside of Las Vegas, right? On the 15.
Oh yeah, you see it. Yeah, driving in.
Yeah. Believe it or not, the sun doesn't shine at night. The water that they're boiling up there in that thing, those towers, doesn't create steam when it's not boiling. And when the sun doesn't shine at night, that thing doesn't work. It's all powered by gasoline, or not gasoline, but natural gas then is used to keep that stuff going so you can keep on making energy out of it. There's a fallacy it's like, oh, it looks good, so it must work. Fossil fuels, I'm not saying it's the best source of anything, but fossil fuels in itself, it's so ingrained in our system right now. We haven't found a way to get rid of it. But any way you get rid of it, you're still going to need fossil fuels. The microphone with the foam rubber on it in front of you, that came from crude oil. Any of your plastics or your chemicals that you have, it's all crude oil based. So when you start to think about, oh, we need to get rid of crude oil and petroleum, the cars that you have, you're not going to be able to drive them because those rubber wheels just don't work if they're not on a car, and you're not going to get it because it's all petroleum based. And all the plastics that you see, anything that's plastic, it all is chemical industry coming from petroleum.
Yeah, I feel like, it's like the backbone. It's like our life, it's our lifespan basically with this stuff. And I know at one time, there were no gas, there were no cars, there was none of that. I know at one time, I mean, I don't know where people want us to go. They want us to be back to horse and buggy or whatever, but it's just so interesting to me. People want to complain about something. Maybe they don't have all the numbers, all the facts, but they think their way's better. And when there's lots of people who are in the heart of this business, in this industry, I should say, that probably know a thing or two. It's not all about profit. It's just like, if there was a better way, maybe the military would be doing something different, but there is no better way.
Well, the military is tasked right now to actually try to find fossil fuels to run an aircraft, but it has to be 100% dependable. They're not, and it's not going to be something that they test for just a year and say, okay, yeah, we're going to do that. It has to be extremely dependable and a viable source. And when the viable source right now that's being used by the military comes from cow's tallow or just odds and ends biodiesel stuff, it's not used for any aircraft. They did have an aircraft that ran on a partial percentage of biofuel, and I haven't heard anything more about it after that. The first time it's kind of like, no, it's going to mess the engines up really bad. We don't want that. So you can't do some things and you can try things.
I don't know how comfortable I would feel as a pilot trying out new fuel in a plane,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Put it up in one of those remote control guys. We'll play with it that way first.
Oh man. Well, very interesting stuff, John. This is that's why I wanted to have you on, is kind of get some insight on some thoughts about, fuel and the defense industry there, Defense Logistics Agency, I should say. So where are some other places you traveled? We kind of went on a tangent there, but you got to travel quite a bit over the course of your career.
Okay. I lived in Italy for 4 years, and I lived in Brussels, Belgium area for 3 years, doing some of this stuff, buying the fuel and getting it to wherever, loading ships, boatloads of fuel. You throw 10 million gallons of fuel on a boat. Okay. I would have to buy that, make sure it's all good before they even start putting it on, so I'm gonna have to be there, for a week, watching them test it, watching them make it, the whole thing, and then verifying the testing before we even start loading ship. Then the ship has to be scheduled to have that, so they may have to hold this for a couple of days or so in tanks that the government would rent for them, from the refiner, and only put our product in there, whatever, and it's all good. And so I did this in Greece, I did it in Rotterdam, did it, do it over in England and in various places there, down in Spain, down in Africa, believe it or not, in Djibouti, Africa, in Turkey. And then that's just the area that I cover, because where I was at in Europe, we covered all of Europe and all of Africa. So there was 12 of us. We did a lot of travel. Yeah. Uncle Sam sent me to 50 countries.
Oh,
and I've been to 53. United States, Canada, and Mexico were the ones I was at before I went overseas. So it's kind of, I got to see a lot of really cool places. I got to see a lot of really crappy places, but every place I went to was unique and different, and I learned something.
Well, that's absolutely learning something in different places of the world. But it's always nicer to travel, John. I umpired minor league baseball for a while, some college baseball, just within the States here and there. But it's always nicer to travel when someone else is paying for it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. It's a lot nicer that way. It's a whole lot. And then I've literally been eating dinner or lunch, both actually. It's happened more than one occasion, overlooking the ancient ruins of Corinth in Greece, and I'm watching the tourists down below, that paid to go there and everything, and I'm being paid to sit here and eat, it's pretty hard to take,
Oh man, that's great. That is great. We're so living in Italy. There's so much history there and so many things to see everywhere you went, really. But Italy, I mean, they love to eat there. I'm sure you had some amazing meals, and the city's shut down right at 4:00, so everyone can eat dinner.
No, it shuts down at 1. That's Reposo, and then they go home for an hour for a nap or whatever like that. Then they come back, or maybe they don't. And then they come back. The businesses will be open for a little while but then they'll start their dinner late, 8:00, 8:30, 9:00. Yeah, but they don't open in the morning until like 10.
That's not much time in there for business hours. It's like,
yeah. So it's, but that's one of the things in Italy that was just like, okay, I really like this lifestyle. We should be more like them.
My girlfriend says that all the time when she studied abroad in Italy. She wants me to go back there. I've been there before, but as a teenager. So, that's a question I have for you. So, everyone here in the States can relate to going out to, bars and restaurants. And what were some of the, I guess, favorite places you went, or cities or countries to go have a beer at a beer garden, or go out for some wine for dinner, or whatever? What were some cool places you went to?
Well, some cool places I went. Well, work didn't send me a lot of cool places. Where I went purposefully in Italy, there was a little town called Tirrenia, and there was a bar there called La Squalo, which means the shark, and it was just an awesome place to go to. Nice, relaxing, one of those things. And then other places that I've been to go out, St. Petersburg, Russia, Jerusalem, Cape Town, South Africa. There's always the Mauritius Islands out in the middle of the Indian Ocean. You have to, sometimes work takes you to really tough places, you have to go to. Kyiv, Ukraine. Oh, that was off the hook. And those were Kyiv, Jerusalem, St. Petersburg. Those were for presidential support. So that was that's interesting as well.
Who are the biggest drinkers in all the different countries you've been to?
I've never been to Finland. Yeah, I have been to Finland, but I didn't get to drink with any of those guys. The people that I've drank with the most is probably the Russians. But from what I understand, Latvia drinks more than the Russians do. It's just a little tiny city, little tiny town.
Oh.
Yeah, they can get pretty placid. But there was in Belgium, when I was living in Belgium, there was a place where a lot of Americans went to. This one place, it was at a 5 points where 5 streets came together to one place, and we just called it 5 points. But the name of the bar was called Der Speak. And I have a real good friend over there now from my sojourns over there. And he introduced me to a lot of people, but we would go down there, the Americans would go down there until 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, just sitting there talking, drinking. And then we would literally go next door to the bakery that had already started to bake goods for the next day for the fresh baked goods. We'd go in the back door and buy fresh baked pastries and stuff like that and eat them on the way home after being drinking for the night. It was just totally awesome.
Sounds like a perfect night.
I don't think you can't find a place like that anywhere else in the United States.
No, that one-stop shop. That's awesome. Yeah, it sounds like a great night, man. Yeah, fresh pastries, great stuff. Well, John, let's talk a little football specifically. You mentioned when you were in Glendora back in the States that you had started officiating a few years after moving there. So, what got you involved in officiating?
I'd gotten divorced, and I was like, oh, man, I need something to do besides just, whatever like that. And one of my sons was playing basketball at Upland, which is where I moved to. And after one of the ball games, I went and asked one of the officials, and did you know Bobby Simmons?
No.
Okay. He was, he told me about they're going to have a softball meeting and a basketball and a football, and he told me how to get a hold of so-and-so. And I went to my first football meeting the very next year on doing that. And I think that was like in 93, 94, something like that. And then next thing I know, I'm refereeing football with Kevin Smith,
Oh, wow.
down at Rolling Heights, and it was.
So what made you, I'm curious, what made you go up to a basketball referee at the end of the game? Did you kind of notice him running around or what?
And I used to ref intramurals even in college, and
Oh.
they liked me. They liked me because I seemed to, I was fair, but I always seemed to be in the right spot at the right time to make a call. And little did I know at that time, that's 90% of officiating right there.
Yeah.
You're in the right spot at the right time and making the call, being in position. And it was something I want to get back out because I knew I could do it.
Oh.
I knew I could do it. I had a good eye, and I had a good feel for the game. I played the game before. You know what you're looking for. You know what's going on out there. And then then it's a matter of just, hey, hooking up with the right people to do it.
Yeah, I'm wearing.
I think looking back, I think I may have I may have been your first white hat for an afternoon game down at what's the one off of Valley in Hacienda Heights, not in Hacienda Heights, Walnut. Yeah, I think that's where I first met you.
I remember my first game. It wasn't that one, but I remember working. I think we did work together on a field, and I was trying to be all ears and, learn something from everybody. Sometimes you learn things to do and things not to do as well. So I think that is where we first met.
I think that is. I think it was. Yeah.
I'm wearing the Foothill Citrus polo here for those not watching on YouTube. We're proud members of that unit. Now, you said you did football. Did you work any other sports for Foothill Citrus?
I did girls fast pitch, and I did basketball.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. So I always ask this with guys who do football and other sports because I think I know the answer, but maybe you're different. What was your favorite sport to officiate of all the sports you did?
Football, of course.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Every time.
And it's because of the camaraderie that you get with the guys.
Mm.
You really have a 5-man crew, that you all have to learn to get along and work with what you've got, and you've got to trust each other to cover your position. I can't be a line judge on one side and be expected to pick up what the head linesman is on the other side that he missed or isn't looking at, because I'm not looking at that stuff. I've got to trust that guy to do it. And as a white hat, he's got to trust 4 guys, not just himself, but 4 guys as well, to be able to be on the right place at the right time. And I don't know, are they up to 6 officials now for high school or 7?
No, they did 7. So for a while they did 7-man in a few league games or whatever, the schools that wanted it. And then for playoffs, I think they start 7-man in the semifinals now.
Okay.
But 5-man most of the year. So yeah, you show up with 4 other guys usually, and hey, let's go run this game. It's 11 on one team, 11 on the other, and the 5 of us trying to sort it all out. So that's always fun. I like that aspect of it too. And it's an intense 2.5 hours. It's fun to run around and run a game. What are some of your memories from officiating, John, whether it be, your first game or some crazy situations that occurred on a field, or maybe some of the names and faces that you worked with?
Well, I had a streak going for 3 weeks in a row that the 3 kids went to the hospital.
Oh,
They just got horrific injuries.
oh,
And it was just one of those things. I mean, they're getting rolled over and, knees dislocated, compound fracture of the ankle area, that kind of stuff. And it was just like, yeah, get me off this train, because that's no fun at all. And it has nothing to do with you. It's all about that kid that's being hurt. And, just like, you don't want that to happen to your worst enemy. But some of the best, one of the most embarrassing things that happened to me is I was at the old field there in Covina, and I was the back judge, and it was Covina versus, I don't know who it was. I don't remember, but Rocky Bedar was our head, our white hat. And there was a punt, and I was back with the guy, and I was far enough behind him. Well, I stayed behind him on the right side, just where he's at. And the guys closed on him pretty quick. And he decided he's going to run around behind me, and I'm trying to backpedal to get him, keep him in front of me and everything like that. And the next thing I know, I hit a sprinkler head that's lower on the field. It's down in a little dip like this. And I went down to that. I went asshole over tea kettles, like that. And it was just like, I go, whoa, that wasn't supposed to happen.
If you haven't officiated from your back, you haven't officiated long enough.
There you go.
That's funny.
And then I had one. There was some kid got hurt, and it was an afternoon game, and I'm the white hat, and I'm not blowing the whistle because the kid's still trying to go forward and everything like that. And somebody comes up and just finally, the kid's sort of fighting to go forward, and the guy's trying to hold him. Another guy comes up and blasts him, lays him out. Legal hit. It's over at Rancho Cucamonga. And the trainer comes over and he starts barking at me. That never happened if you blow your whistle, blah, 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 blah. This is before they had the rule, the sideline guys, keep your mouth shut. Don't be barking at officials, do anything like that. Boom. And the guy kept it up. And I told him, and Don Corey was there. And you asked Don about pounding sand. And I told the guy, I goes, you just need to get over your other side there and go pound sand. All right, leave me alone. Every time Don and I would see each other, say, hey, you pounded any sand? No, not lately.
That's hilarious. Who are some of the guys you mentioned? Don Corey, Rocky Better. Who are some guys in the unit that were really, I don't know, memorable? You talk about the brotherhood and everything. Who are some of the guys from Foothill Citrus that were, that you will always remember?
Rich Riley is one that I just really love. That guy. That he's really, really really awesome. Terry O'Hearn, quiet, reserved,
classy,
very nice, very knowledgeable,
very
knowledgeable. Of course, Tracy's always special. He's just a good guy, easy to talk through the whole thing. Mike Gotro was another guy that was just really easy to talk to, and he'd listen through whatever that you had to tell him, and you'd sit there and you'd start analyzing things. And I mean, he was really, really pretty good. Let's see. I always enjoyed working with Scott Root. Scott's just a lot of fun, and of course Max is Max. He's just a great guy. He's a lot of fun. Max is a lot of fun. I really enjoy that man. Another couple guys. Let's see. What was his? I'm trying to think. There were some guys. They weren't the big knowners. I really always enjoyed being with them and working with them. And one was Jesse O'Connor. He's just part of the Mexican Brotherhood.
Yeah.
And Ernie Franchino, another one of those like that. Just enjoyed. We had a good, pleasurable time. Even Sherman Garnett. I just enjoyed being around these guys because they just had a good vibe, a good thing going on with them.
What's awesome is football. You mentioned it's 5 guys, and we all come from all walks of life, but we go in that locker room and we're one team for that night. And it's like, hey, let's go. Like, No one
Yeah.
cares where we come from. No one cares what we do for a living. People care about the product we're going to put on the field tonight. So that was always special to me.
Yeah, exactly. There was one guy, I didn't get to work with him much, and his name was Mats Thomas. And I don't know if you know him or you've heard of him or not, but he went up to Washington, I think. But I mean, I think he was about my age, but he ended up passing away here a few years ago. He had I guess a major heart attack or whatever, just boom, next thing I knew he was gone. But he was, Mats Thomas was one of those kind souls that just, he was there for you all the time. You ever wanted to talk or do whatever, that was just him. Quiet, unassuming gentleman that was just, and he lived around the corner from me too. So we got together, we go hit the sticks every now and then and just have a good time.
Well, those golf tournaments, as I mentioned earlier, were always a blast. Joe Bernansky ran those, and there was a lot more beers than pars, we'll say, out there. And you didn't take it too serious. You had some fun. Those were great memories. Always kind of towards the end of the season. Those are my kind of fondest memories of Foothill Citrus. But also Friday nights, going to Pizza Chalet or Round Table Pizza.
Friday nights, yeah, that's great. What's really fun is being able to watch Sean's career. Luckily. He worked with me all the time, and I was always his white hat. He was never a white hat for me. I was always his white hat.
Got to get better, kid.
Now he's up there on Sundays and Mondays and Thursday nights calling the big boys. You know, but you could see in him. It was easy to see in him where he was. He was already polished before he ever came to Foothill Citrus.
Yeah, Sean Hockley is not where he's at because of his last name by any
means.
No, he's
not by any means.
And what's awesome about Sean, like a lot of he's just an example of many guys, but especially Foothill Citrus. He's a guy that was always so happy to see guys when he would come back to speak at a banquet, or you or me. Hey Matt, he'd always ask, "Hey Matt, how's baseball going?" I'm like, Sean, you just worked the Steelers Ravens on Sunday. What do you care about what I'm doing in baseball? Like, he's just a sincere, humble guy. And he has so many friends at Foothill Citrus, and he's definitely one of our finest officials ever to go through it. Yeah.
I'd love to come back in October and go to the banquet one time just to walk in and see, but there probably 3 people that know me now.
No, you know what I say? Here's what I say, John. I'm technically retired from Foothill Citrus. We need to have a retired officials Foothill Citrus banquet at the we'll crash it sometime. Maybe even fly Tracy out from Vegas.
Yeah, I was gonna say we got to maybe bring Tracy in, or we just go. I'll have it at Tracy's house.
Well, at Tracy's house, we'll have him buy drinks. All those assigner fees we paid him over the years, he can afford it. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think that'd be really good.
So, John, with all your travels, did you have to take breaks from officiating, being in other countries all the time?
Well, actually, I refereed softball and basketball when I was in Italy.
No way.
Yes, I was working with morale, welfare, and recreation, but they always had softball tournaments all the time, different bases coming in, and I was always doing that. And then the basketball was the same thing. Plus, I did the high schools would come in, and I would referee their high school basketball there. And then I refereed when I was in Belgium. I was refereeing football up there. So I was able to keep my hand warm and everything else good to go, and keep my mechanics sharp when I came back.
They played football in Belgium?
Oh yeah. And then all the American schools had football teams, and so you'd have kids coming from England over to Belgium to play, up from Germany, up from Italy. It was awesome.
How did they find officials to work? Like, because I mean.
That was the one thing that I asked, was how do you find officials? Well, we get guys that have some kind of experience, and we do them. And I started talking to one of the guys. I said, "Tell me something," and I started asking him questions. And I said, "They let you referee this stuff?" I goes, "You don't know what you're doing." He goes, "What are you talking about?" Because I've got all this experience. Blah 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 blah. He goes, "Really?" I goes, "Yeah." He goes, "You're going to be wearing the white hat next week." I'm here at this game. And he says, "You're going to give us all a quick course on where we need to be and what we're supposed to be looking at." So it was really kind of funny about doing that, because it was and they said, "Okay, what are you doing? How are we doing it?" And so this is what happens. And I just sat down for like 4 nights in a row. We all met, and I just started going over the finer points for them. And this is what you're doing, and this is where you need to be. And it's all because I learned my mechanics under the right guys at Foothill Citrus.
That's incredible. I mean, if you really, really think about it, like think about how many people in this world have been able to officiate football in another country. There's, there was NFL Europe and there's an NFL game in, England every year, but high school football.
Those are fun to attend, by the way.
Oh, are they? Tell me about it.
Blast. I was there when I was in Belgium. I went over on the ferry and took the train up once we got to Dover. And then we spent like 4 days there because it's a big thing. It's a big party, for 4-day party for the NFL guys, and the people there just absolutely love it. They absolutely love it. And then they have 80,000 people in the stands. And I was there and I saw San Francisco play the Panthers. And so it was kind of like, I knew who was going to win, at that time, but it was an absolute mayhem blast. And everybody's yelling and screaming at each other, just having a good time. Before the game, after the game, 3 days before the game, they've got some people that are over there from the 49ers and the Panthers answering questions, retired guys answering questions. In fact, Joe Montana was there, and, doing interviews with the press and all that kind of stuff about the football coming over and just how good it was and how happy, just building relationships is what it's all about. And that's what they're doing. I mean, would it go over totally for the NFL to have a team in London and then playing? I don't know, man. That time change can be pretty brutal.
Oh,
it really can. I mean, it's only 6 hours, 5 hours, or whatever it is from the East Coast, but it's 8 hours from the West Coast, and that's pretty tough stuff. So you got to fly over. You better have a bye week. You better leave that night after your game on Sunday night. You better leave for London because it's going to take you 2 days. Then you better be having a bye week whenever you get back. You're going to need it.
Yeah, really good.
I've had some travel experiences that could really mess you up because you don't know if you're coming or going sometimes. As far as how far you've been, where did you go in the last month? I literally went from Italy to Cleveland to Los Angeles, back to Italy, back to Cleveland, back out here to California, back out to California, back to Cleveland, back to Italy, and then up to Riga, Latvia. After I got back, and that was all in a matter of 4 weeks. And it was just like, wait, what?
I had that feeling in the minor leagues of baseball. The teams, base coach come out and say, "Hey, where are you guys coming from?" And you had to think about it for a second. Wait, where did we just drive from? So I can't imagine being on a plane all the time.
Oh, yeah. And my mom asked me, goes, how do you deal with this? How do you know where you are? Goes, sometimes I don't.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong at all. I think you asked me off the air how I, when I walked away from officiating, and I just had some other things I needed to pursue at the time. And I had a good run at officiating football and other sports. But what ultimately was your decision to retire from Foothill Citrus football officiating?
Well, mine was I had seen too many guys my age. I'm 69 right now. And I walked away from it a few years ago. But I've seen a bunch of guys just hang on and hang on and hang on and hang on, and then end up getting hurt and just being miserable. And then they still try to, push through it and I'm going, I'm not going to die a cripple just for a football game. Okay. And I'm just not going to do that. And so that's eventually, it was just a matter of, I'm going to protect my health as long as I can to get away from it. And I was talking to Max about it. He says, "Oh man, you can come back like that." And I said, "No, I'm not going to, Max." And that was the year he pulled his Achilles.
How How's that for irony? Let me ask you this: in all your years, you don't have to agree with me. In all the years of traveling you've done, in all the places you've been, experiences you've had, for me, and I haven't done nearly the traveling that you've done, but I've kind of done some, within the States and things. To me, there's still nothing better, and I miss it a little bit. I'm not going back anytime soon, but there's still nothing better than a Friday night, right around 10:30, sitting around a tall pitcher of beer, a nice big piece of pizza, and getting opinions and hearing stories from your fellow football officials sometime in the fall.
Dude, that is the best. That's the best. I mean, if you could do that as a retired guy, if you could do that, like say once a month or once every 2 months, whatever like that, and just being around with all those guys like that, it's awesome. It's awesome. It was I think it helps to build the camaraderie for one, but at the same time, if you got your ears open, you're learning things.
I was just going to say, I mean, I don't know how many times guys have argued about something and guy storms off to his car to get the rule book, comes back. It's just like, wait, okay, you were right. Never mind. It's just stuff like that. That's
mine on that was just ask Rich. He knows what's going on. It'd go 5.3.4,
Every crew, there's someone, he probably knows. Let's ask him. But you have stories and things that you never seen before. Like, we all have this piece of paper, this rule book or case book that, okay, things happen, but to truly experience something, much like you studied biology and all this, you didn't know that you'd be going into this industry. You had to kind of learn it as you went.
Exactly. And you just, like I said, I just kept my mouth shut and asked questions and listened.
What a concept. I hope everyone takes that with them today. Football officiating. It was a blast, and well, you're in Carolina now, but we'll do something. We got to get a Zoom meeting, maybe. I don't know, with football officials on a Friday night. Let me ask you this as we kind of wrap it up, John. Just kind of for fun, nothing too serious or anything. You and I both like to have a beverage at the end of the day usually. So what are some of your favorite drinks? Are you a whiskey guy, vodka, wine, all of the above, beer guy? Tell me what's your top list?
I'm a beer guy, but I also like wine, but there's nothing better than a nice bourbon to, relax the soul.
relax the soul. I like that a lot. I'm going to use that one.
It's just, there's something about it that's just like, yeah. So the one that I like right now, the one I'm drinking right now is a Basil Hayden's. And I've recently had some good taste of Old Taylor and Elijah T. Lee, which is one that you can't find. You almost have to be invited to the auction to get it. And it's extremely expensive. I just happened to be in the right place, right time to try that one. And that was like, holy cow, that's worth every penny of that bottle.
Yeah. Story of your life, John. Right place, right time. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, it's called Somebody's Watching Out for Old John.
Yeah,
I think somebody's watching out for all of us if we just pay attention.
Oh man, I couldn't have said it better myself, man. Yeah, someone is looking out for all of us if we're just paying attention. Well, John, this has been a lot of fun. I think I don't know about you, but I'm going to go relax the soul a little bit more myself, pour myself another something after talking with you. But this has been so much fun chatting with you. Thank you for doing this. And God bless you, man. Enjoy the good life, a retired life in North Carolina. Oh, we almost made it and you froze. Oh, here he comes. You're back?
You're back. I'm back.
Okay, you're back. I'm sorry, John. Enjoy. I don't know if everyone heard this, but anyway, God bless you, man. Thank you so much for doing this, and enjoy the nice retired life in North Carolina, man.
I most certainly will. If you get back this way, give me a holler. You have my phone number.
I do.
And we can arrange some golf somewhere.
Yeah. You have to.
It might not be on Pinehurst number 2 because you don't want to pay $600 to do that. Neither do I.
No.
Have it kick your butt. Why bother with that?
Yeah, I'm more of a 19th hole kind of guy. You know what I mean, John?
There you go. There's some good places right there. Looking over the 18th hole from Pinehurst number 2, where you can get really good bourbon.
Ooh, okay. That sounds like it. Well, I will keep that in mind. with my travels. Say, hey, I know a guy in North Carolina that I can go see. So
I
yeah.
also know the bartender there.
Oh, that is. We talked about liquid gold earlier. I mean, that's gold in itself, right there. Yeah, go relax the soul, John. I'm going to do so myself. Thank you for doing this. This has been so much fun. Great seeing you, man.
Max, same here, guy. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. I was out of the blue. I wasn't expecting this at all, but this has been a lot of fun.
I reach out to people, man. Over this past year, and it's just been like, hey, I know you, you know me. Let's have a conversation over, a little podcast. And yeah, some people are hesitant, but you weren't, and I really appreciate that. So this has been a blast, John, and we will see you down the road, man. Cheers.
You take care of yourselves, and if I could leave you with one thought, it's behave yourself, even if it's poorly.
I will put that in my arsenal. Thank you, sir. Have a
All
good
right.
one.
Take care, bud.
Bye
Cheers.
now. Man, John Heid, what can you say? That was so much fun talking about his work in the defense industry there with fueling and football officiating, all of his travels, the various experiences he has had. That's what we're looking for here on the Get Home Safe podcast. Just opportunities to share people's stories, their journeys through life, whatever it may be, whatever their career path may be. That's what we like to do on Fridays to get some perspective on various walks of life. So thank you to John Heid for doing that. Looking forward to next week already with more podcasts and more interviews. This was just so much fun. So John, again, I told you on the air, but thank you. That really was a lot of fun chatting with you and catching up. And as I tell you guys on the podcast almost every week, it's fun catching up with people. It's fun to have a conversation. It gives you an excuse to talk with someone that you haven't talked to in a while. So I continue to be blessed here on the podcast, and I greatly appreciate all the support out there from you guys, from the avid listeners, from the viewers on YouTube. I'm going to try to keep this going. Got a few more interviews already set up for next week and the weeks following, but I want to continue to just have conversations with friends or colleagues or even people that I don't know, because I truly am blessed from it each and every day. Anyway, that's enough for me today on the Get Home Safe podcast. Everyone out there, have a wonderful weekend as we head into, the end of June here, where it'll be July before you know it, which is crazy to think about considering the crazy year and a half we've had almost. But anyway, to everyone out there, be safe. Have a great weekend. And guys, as always, no matter what you're doing, whether you're out on the town or round in third base, get home safe.